Okay, students, on a scale of 1 to 10, how hard is it for you to talk to the adults in your life? Now be honest, because this is church, even if you're doing it in your own home. I know that when I was a student growing up, this was so difficult for me. I felt like the adults in my life, my parents, my teachers, my youth group leaders, I felt like they honestly wouldn't listen to me. I felt like they didn't really care that much. They were always telling me to do things, and I never really felt like I was heard, like they cared what was really going on inside me. And I resolved myself to just thinking that we just saw things differently, and we would end up fighting and arguing a lot of the time. My parents and I had so many arguments. Now, my parents, they'll tell you that I wasn't an easy child to raise. I know that this is shocking for all of you, and let's be honest, I'm not even really sure that I am an easy person now. But as I've grown up, I've learned some things. And over the past 20 years, I've worked with thousands of students over the years. And for them, I have learned 5 tips about how you can talk and have more productive conversations with the adults in your life. And so I want to share those 5 tips with you today. Number 1, pick your timing. When you talk to the adults in your life, this is so important. Not because there are other things that are more important than you, because that's never, ever the case. In fact, your parents, the adults in your life, they are people too, and they have distractions and responsibilities and their own fears and needs. And when you, the students, you realize that it'll just make your discussions go better. I remember this one day when I had a really long day at work, and so I decided it was just better for me to go to bed early because I was just completely and utterly exhausted. I said goodnight to my kids and I went to bed, and as soon as I fell asleep, as soon as my eyes closed and I entered into a sleepy state, I got a tap on my shoulder by my teenage son, Chase. He said, "Mom, I need to talk to you about something that happened at school today." Now here's the problem. I love my son and I want to talk to him and I want to be there for him. But at that moment, I was not at all my best self. And our talk did not go very well because I wasn't in my best state. So students, be wise. Realize that your parents, your grandparents, your mentors are humans. Humans who have good days and bad days just like you do. So pick your timing. Strategically figure out what time of the day is your adult's best time of the day, or even better yet, schedule your talks with them. Ask them if you can have time for a walk or a talk or a drive, or send them a text asking if you can schedule some time to talk to them. I promise it'll turn out better for you both. All right, so the first, pick your timing. The second is to be brave. Let's be honest, talking about personal stuff can sometimes be embarrassing or awkward, and it takes great bravery to be able to bring up the things that you're experiencing and going through. I mean, maybe you're afraid that your parents are going to freak out, or it maybe even make it more awkward than it already is. Sometimes we're tempted to think that if we don't talk about a problem, that it will just go away. But the truth is that when we hide it, it doesn't actually go away. It's only actually when things come into the light, that we talk about it, that we can deal with it and not feel shame around it. So students, number 2, be brave. Okay, number 3, use I statements. Now, you may not have heard about this before, but this little life hack will work with your parents, your teachers, and basically anyone in authority over you. Maybe coaches, maybe a police officer if you ever get pulled over for a speeding ticket. I promise, I statements will help us acknowledge our own feelings and thoughts without placing blame on other people. I statements, they enable us to have more productive conversations without turning them into big fights. I'm going to give you some examples, ready? So instead of saying something to maybe the adults in your life like, "You never listen to me," you could try an I statement. Like this, saying, "I feel frustrated when I'm not listened to." It's basically saying the same thing, but in a way that gets heard better, which makes it an awesome life hack. And it doesn't put the adults in your life on the defensive. Now, here is a formula that can help you when the tough stuff really comes up. You can use this formula. It's, "I feel blank when you blank because blank, I need blank." All right, let's try it. Maybe you're tempted to say something to the adults in your life like, "You always take my phone, give it back." Instead, try using this formula. Try saying, "I feel sad when you take away my phone because it's my only connection to my friends during this pandemic, and I need to feel connected." So try this formula out in your next tough conversation and see how it changes the dynamics. Number 4, start small. Yep, don't start with the big things. All relationships need time to build trust. And this is true for anyone. Start by sharing little things in your life, like how your math test went, or the funny meme that your friend posted that your mom might appreciate. These things will help you to be able to talk about difficult things like friendship problems or your love life, or when people tempt you with drugs and alcohol, or things that maybe you and your trusted adult might never agree upon. Students, don't be afraid to send them memes or jokes. Start small and then build up to the big things. All right, students, here's your last one, your fifth one. Hear them. Students, I know that it is really hard to hear people who maybe don't hear you. But the adults in your life, they're not perfect. I promise they're not perfect. But they do have some wisdom to offer you. They've lived on this earth just a little bit longer than you. And maybe you don't agree with what they have to say, but try to understand why they believe that way. Is it because they were taught by their parents to believe that way? Or is it a reaction to something else that has happened? Are they reacting like this because they're afraid of something? Here's the thing. If you hear the adults in your life, even if you disagree with them, you can always think about it for just a little bit and then revisit it at another time after you've had some time to process. When you hear and listen to them, you don't have to actually do anything right now, but it gives you the chance to look for mutual understanding. Okay, adults, it is your turn. Now, here are 5 tips for you while talking to your students, and they might sound a little bit familiar. Number 1, pick your timing. It wasn't until late junior high school, like 8th grade, like real late, that I realized my son Chase, he wasn't an extrovert like me, but actually an introvert. And I had irritated him every single day of his life by picking him up for school and asking him a bunch of questions about his day. I had all these good intentions of good parenting, but what I found out I was doing was really draining him more of this already exhausting day with all the other people at school. And after I realized this, I committed to being quiet in the car and letting him have some downtime at home before I asked him about his day. And after an hour about coming home, he would go decompress in his room, but then he would come downstairs and he would just start telling me on his own account about everything that had happened that day. You see, my timing was off. So adults, pick your timing with your students. Number 2. Be brave. As people who love our students, we are sometimes tempted to try and avoid the hard discussions. The day before I went to college, my mom said to me, "Angela, can I talk to you?" And I said, "Okay." And she brought me into her room and she stared awkwardly at the floor, like so much awkwardness. And she said, "Angela, I need to talk to you about guys." And it was the most awkward conversation of my whole entire life. But I am so thankful for my mom's bravery and overcoming her own deep, deep discomfort with the topic. And if it's uncomfortable for you, go ahead and laugh. And if it's awkward, go ahead and name it. If it's loaded with internal conflict for you, go ahead and name that too. Be brave adults. Your kids, your students deserve that. It's better when they learn about life from you, even with its full awkwardness, than to learn it from the internet. Number 3, use I statements. Yep, use that formula. It works well for you as well. Instead of, "Hey, if you see him again, I'm going to ground you forever," try, "I feel worried and anxious about your relationship with him because I love you and I want you to have healthy relationships and I need you to stop seeing him." Parents, adults who love students, your words are so powerful for building them up or tearing them down. So be mindful of your words and use I statements. Number 4, start small. If you want your students to share big things with you, you have to listen and get invested in the little things that they are interested and want to talk about. I know it's not always easy, and I know it can be an investment in your time. I myself have watched Mr. Beast on YouTube, and I've researched Pokemon powers, and I've watched shows that I was never even ever remotely interested in, and played video games that I am not good at all, in order to build a foundation for the big stuff, to be able to coach and guide the students I love through life's difficulties. So parents, adults, start small. And here's the last one. Really hear them. Jesus says, "If anyone who has ears to listen, let them hear." Being heard is the truest, most beautiful gift that we can offer each other. Every single one of us here on this earth wants to be heard and seen and affirmed and loved, and we get to give this gift to our students. So students and people who love them, here's your 5. Number 1, pick your timing. 2, be brave. 3, use I statements. 4, start small. And 5, hear each other. Enjoy your one-on-one conversations.
Hey, Angie!
Yeah, what's up?
Bet you can't do this.
Oh, you're on.
Folks, bottle flipping. Bottle flipping. It's this thing we do, but if we're really honest, isn't it sort of pointless? I mean, bottle flipping, isn't it sort of this mindless thing that we do? Obviously, Angie and I have been doing a lot of it lately, but let's get real. It's sort of this mindless, pointless activity that we do when there's nothing else to do. I was thinking about bottle flipping, and I think it's a great analogy for most of the conversations that we have in our families. I mean, I'm a parent. I'm fully aware of what most of the conversations I have with my sons, well, what those conversations look like. They look something like this. I pick my son up from school and I say, "How was your day, son?" And he says, "Good." And then I say, "Okay, so how did the math test go?" He says, "Good." I go, "Okay, how is distance learning going?" "Good." "How are your friends?" "Good." You get where I'm going? Most of the conversations I think we have as sons and daughters to our parents and parents to our sons and daughters, they're sort of like bottle flipping. If we're really honest, they're sort of mindless. They're sort of pointless. And I think we could take that analogy even a step further to the sort of time that we often spend together as families. It's the sort of thing, like bottle flipping, that we do when there's nothing else to do, right? We're super intentional as families about making sure we carve out time to get our kids to practices. Students, you carve out all kinds of time to practice for that school play. We carve out all kinds of time to make sure we make it to that tournament. But when it comes to family time, if we're really honest, outside of an occasional vacation, isn't our family time sort of like bottle flipping? It's what we do when there's nothing else going on. Well, I want to share something with you that I learned the other day. I was reading some research on a study that was done on students since the outbreak of COVID. This last year, there was a study done of students, and what they found, I think, is going to blow your mind, students and parents. You see, parents, I think we've all been more than a little worried about how the pandemic has affected our kids. Parents, be honest, we've all worried, are our kids, because they haven't been with their friends, more lonely than they were before? How are they doing emotionally? Are they depressed? Are they struggling? Are they not as resilient because they've been confined to our homes? But get this, and this is just going to blow your mind. Parents, the study suggested that kids, amid the pandemic, are less lonely than they've ever been before. Kids are less depressed than ever before. And the majority of kids today, amid the pandemic, are saying that they are more resilient than they've ever been before. Folks, somebody cue the blow your mind emoji, huh? I don't think any of us as parents would have ever thought that to be the case. Now, let me make sure you hear me right. Families in which there were pre-existing struggles, pre-existing things that made life hard, yes, COVID has exaggerated some of those struggles. But for the majority of kids, this time of COVID has actually lowered depression rates, lowered loneliness, and increased their sense of resiliency. And do you want to know what the study pointed to as being the number one factor for kids being less lonely, less depressed, and more resilient? This is going to blow your mind. It's time with family. I mean, think about it. Think of all the time you have spent together since COVID hit. It's that time that has made kids less lonely, less depressed, and more resilient. Somebody cue the blow your mind emoji one more time. This blew my mind. And it probably shouldn't, because we are a part of a faith tradition that again and again suggests that this is true. In the book of Proverbs, we have all kinds of wise sayings. The book of Proverbs is this collection of sayings that seem to suggest what life lived in relationship to God should look like. They're these little sayings, and one of the sayings comes from Proverbs chapter 17, verse 7. It's one of my favorite Proverbs. It says this: a friend loves all the time. A friend loves all the time, but a brother, a sister, but a family is born for adversity. A friend loves all the time, and a brother, a sister, a family is born for adversity. What is that proverb suggesting? Well, it's suggesting this. Friends, they come and go. We know this. But our family, well, God created the family to be there for us in hard times. And not only to be there for us in hard times, but that we might thrive amid the struggles of life. And it seems to me that this research suggests that that is the case. Now, here's what I want to make absolutely clear. We are all sad. We have all been frustrated. It has been a hard year, missing all the tournaments, all the sports, all the theater, all the dance, all the music, all the activities that we've gotten used to. It has been really hard not having those. And parents, this year has been a dance, to say the least. You've been turned upside down. You've been stretched more than ever before. But the research and our faith is clear that if we want to lower depression rates, lower loneliness, and increase resiliency, do you know what the one thing is we can do? Is to spend more time together and to be intentional about it. A few years ago, my wife and I, we listened to a speaker, and he said that he has one goal. He and his wife has one goal when it comes to their children. And everything they do as parents is focused on making sure that they win at this goal. And their goal with their kids is this. They want to raise their kids in such a way that when their kids don't have to be with them, they actually want to be together. Isn't that interesting? They raise their kids in such a way that when their family doesn't have to be together, they actually want to be together. And when I heard that the first time, I thought that was kind of selfish. Like, what kind of a parent makes it a goal that their kids want to be with them? But then I started thinking about that proverb. and thinking about the research that we just talked about. And it seems to me that if our goal is to have our families want to be together when they don't have to be together, just maybe it's more than feeling good about being together. Maybe it's about lowering depression rates, lowering loneliness, and building resiliency. You see, parents, do you want your kids to win in life? Kids, do you want to win in life? The research, Proverbs, they both seem to suggest that if you want to win in life, the one thing you can do for one another is to simply be together. And your family, as we turn the page on 2020 and we embark on 2021, I think all of us is hopeful for what this year will bring. But I want you to pause tonight, folks. And I want you to wonder about the time you spend together. Before you rush back to life as normal, what would it look like for you, if you will, to flip things a bit? To say, rather than letting our busy schedules win the day, what if we were to get intentional about the time we spend together? Because when we're intentional about that time, well, here's the deal. We all win. Be intentional. Eat meals together. Be intentional. Have a date night for your family every week. Be intentional. Check in with each other at the same time every day. But now shut off the phone. Shut off the TV. Talk to each other. Just simply be together. I mean, for some of you, that's one major flip, huh? A flip that every one of us needs. And when we make that flip, we all win.